Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you, Sika, so much for that wonderful introduction. First of all, thank you so much, Kunal, for joining in, and what a time to discuss crowdfunding, especially amidst a raging pandemic. In 1997, a British rock band made headlines when they raised $60,000 when they launched their first online crowdfunding campaign for fans. In the early 2000s, many crowdfunding platforms started taking over, like Indiegogo, Kickstarter, and so much more. In India, while we have seen a surge, we can still say that it's in its nascent stages. With that, Kunal, let me ask you, in a country like India, where asking for help or donation has been stigmatized, it is often seen in a negative light, sometimes even under suspicion. What was your drive behind starting a crowdfunding company, which is otherwise known as Keto, short for Keto Tomorrow?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute pleasure to be part of such a wonderful, incredible platform. I think the idea behind Keto was very simple for us. It was basically about building technology to build a bridge between people that can help and people that need helping. And basically about 10 years back, I was working in the social space very closely with a number of NGOs. And I found that there were a lot of challenges that these NGOs were facing, which were possible only to change if these NGOs shifted from raising money offline to online. And at the same time, I happened to meet Varun Sheth, who's the co-founder. And he had worked in the social space as well and in the financial sector. And we both realized that if we leverage the power of technology to create something that was very easy to give on, to create something that was very transparent, then we could be onto something that was very powerful. And the idea really was the democratization of capital, because we found that capital was concentrated in the hands of very few people. And very few people actually had access to that capital. And we felt that for us to bring about something powerful, it was very important to democratize capital. So that's how Keto was born about 8.5 years back from a small office with just the two of us.
Kunal, we often see that, in a country like India, and mostly so abroad as well, that donations or crowdfunding, sort of sees a surge when there is a social cause or a social story or something that has gone viral or has reached the masses in large numbers and sort of pulled at their heartstrings.
Sure.
Or something, for an example, would be the pandemic or any disaster relief that we talk about, right?
Sure.
But we sort of see it petering out slowly. How do you sort of create a sustainable model for such a social enterprise?
Well, on the contrary, we've only seen it grow, and we've seen it grow very rapidly. Even before the pandemic, of course, during the pandemic, a lot more people have come forward to contribute and start fundraisers. But even before the pandemic, it was growing very, very quickly. In fact, about 3.5 years back, I think we broke a sort of critical benchmark, which was that we were raising in a month how much we were raising in a whole year. And then the next year, we were raising in a week how much we were raising in a year before that. So, it's been growing very, very quickly. And I think it has to do with the fact that when we started, which was about 8.5 years back, crowdfunding was not something that people had heard about. So for us, it was not only about creating a company, it was also about educating people and creating a market where it didn't exist at all. So it was about educating not only the people that were going to donate, but also the NGOs that were going to raise money on a platform like us. Because even the NGOs didn't know that something like this existed. Most of these NGOs were raising money offline or on websites where the technology wasn't good enough or were not raising enough money online. So for us, it was about educating not only the people that were going to donate, but also the people that were starting fundraisers. And I think that education has gone a really long way because like I'm saying is in the last 3.5 years, the growth that we've seen has been absolutely phenomenal.
So if you keep the education part of it aside for a moment, what do you think has changed? Or do you think that one reason could be that we have the youngest population over the world? And how is Keto itself, as you mentioned in a couple of points, scripting a path to success in sort of building a scalable social enterprise in India? Because that's something that we have not seen.
Yeah, sure. There are a couple of things. I mean, I think it'll be very difficult to see things in just isolation. I think there are a lot of factors that have come together. One, of course, is as a country, we are digitizing very, very rapidly. Lots and lots of people are now online compared to how many there were even 10 years back. There's access to people from across the country now, which was not possible earlier. Secondly is, I think a lot of young people in this country want to come forward and make a difference, make a change. And for us, really, it was about providing them with an avenue. I came across a lot of people that wanted to help, but they were like, I don't know if this money is going to go to the right place. I don't know how to give money. Who do I give it to? So for us, it was just about creating the avenue because we knew that the market existed. People wanted to help. People wanted to make a difference, but there was no avenue for them to make a difference. And what's been very particularly heartening for us is that a lot of people that actually come on Keto and donate or start fundraisers are people who've never done it before. So these are people that are doing it for the first time. In fact, during the pandemic, there was this young girl who's 10 years old now. She was sitting with her father and watching the news. And there was the migrant story that was going on. And she said, I don't want to just sit around and watch. I want to do something. So she started a fundraiser on Keto. And she raised 14 lakhs for migrant workers. So you have such young people that really want to come forward and make a difference. And for us, I think it's just about creating the technology, the avenue, and the transparency that makes it very easy for them to do that.
So, just as a follow-up, obviously, we are digitizing fast. As our previous speaker said, that, every second there are 3 new people joining the internet. But the internet is a vastly crowded place of information. So how do you sort of ensure as Keto that, as you rightly pointed out, that, there are not fake websites that are running under your name? Or how do you ensure transparency or you ensure authenticity that, you stand out from everybody else and that's the platform that people are going to use to sort of donate or raise funds?
Well, what happened with us was that when we started, we didn't reach out to people actually. All the growth that happened was very organic. So what that means is that if somebody came and contributed on the platform or raised money on the platform, they actually recommended it to other people. So the growth was very organic. So a lot of genuine people were actually involved in, helping us grow Keto. And I think like you said, what is really important for a platform like us is trust, to build the trust. And for that, we spend a lot of time, a lot of due diligence goes into making sure that the NGOs that are on the platform are vetted, that all their paperwork is in place, that we are dealing with credible NGOs. The second thing is that a large part of all the cases that are on Keto are medical cases. So what happens is that in a typical case is that if somebody needs money, we reach out to the hospital. We work with the hospital to make sure all the documentation is in place. We make sure that, this person is genuinely in the hospital, is genuinely requiring this treatment. So there's a very, very slim chance of, when there's so much diligence that goes into it, there's a very, very slim chance that something there would be a campaign that is not credible or is fraudulent. We've not seen any of those on the platform.
Okay, so the question is, Kunal, there are a lot of regulatory differences between India and the US market. In India, crowdfunding has been restricted to microfinancing. Okay, so do you have any recommendations for the regulators to sort of open it up so that crowdfunding itself can scale in India?
Well, yeah, I mean, right now crowdfunding is mainly the donation-based model, a reward or donation-based model. Equity crowdfunding is not completely legal in India as yet. So I think that is something that the government needs to look into. But I think as the market grows, as the industry grows, I think there will be regulatory changes that the government makes automatically. It really is about the size of the industry. And I think, like I said, 8 years back, crowdfunding was something that nobody even spoke about or knew about in this country. In 8 years, we've come a really long way. So as the industry grows, I think the changes, the regulatory changes that the government will make will happen. I've had a chance to speak to people that are in the government about things that can happen, and I have been told that this is something that they're looking at. Crowdfunding is something that they're looking at expanding the scope of the industry. So I'm hoping that those changes happen soon enough.
So before I let you go, Kunal, if you could share three things or three pieces of advice that you would want to give to the generation of India and also about crowdfunding's future.
Three suggestions that I would like to give the people of like. Sorry,
yeah, the people. Yeah. I mean, see, three suggestions from your own life journey that you've learned about entrepreneurship, about crowdfunding, in India, and what do you see as the future?
Well, strangely, I'm an actor, and being creative and being in the movies and being an entrepreneur has a lot of similarities, which is what I found. Firstly, is of course both are. As counterintuitive as it sounds, I think entrepreneurship is as creative as making a movie is, because you really have to be creative to disrupt something that has existed for years. So creativity is the common sort of thread between the two. The second is that listening to your audience. I think every Friday a movie releases, and sometimes it does well, it doesn't do well. You might think you come up with a great product, but eventually it's the audience that matters. And similarly, as an entrepreneur, you've really got to sort of listen to the audience. You've got to make changes depending on what the audience wants. Thirdly, I think what is really important is self-belief. As a person that makes movies, you need a lot of self-belief in the story that you're putting out there for it to be successful. Similarly, as an entrepreneur, it's a very lonely sort of job sometimes. Sometimes you feel like this is not going to work out. Sometimes you feel like maybe I shouldn't be doing this. But the self-belief is really important. And I remember that when we started off, we went to meet this investor. And he said that, look, this is not going to work in this country. People are not generous in this country, and I don't think crowdfunding will work. And when we were leaving, he said, look, it doesn't matter whether I believe in your idea or not. What really matters is that you believe in your idea. And I think that is the core of being an entrepreneur or a person in the movies. I think that's the common thread as well. So I think, self-belief, listening to your audience, being creative, I think those are the things that you really have to sort of pay attention to when you're an entrepreneur. And as far as crowdfunding goes, I think we've only just scratched the surface. I mean, we live in a world where technology is changing things very rapidly, especially in the medical space. But you have gene editing, you have robotic surgeries, you have nanoparticles in the blood. But how many people will be able to afford this technology? Who will have access to capital to be able to access this technology? I think that's where something which is like crowdfunding comes in, which is the democratization of capital. And right now, like I said, we've only scratched the surface because we've reached out to only the urban centers. But I think we'll really have made a difference when we reach out to the small towns, the villages, where people really need the money. Because, we live in a country where medical and the health industry is very, very underfunded. And, we'll really sort of make an impact when we can reach out to these small towns and small villages. And in the last 6 months, we've done a lot of hiring in these small towns and small cities. So I think in the next couple of years, you'll see crowdfunding expanding to places where it hasn't been before.
Thank you so much for those wonderful insights and pieces of suggestions. Over to you, Shikha.